Hi, how's everybody doing today? This is Anthony from the Basement Reef. And if this is your first time tuning into our channel, we're a retail aquatic pet store and houseplant shop located in Columbia, Missouri. That means we sell all manner of both saltwater and freshwater aquatic livestock and a ton of really awesome tropical houseplants. And here on this channel, we talk about all things related to that. Today, we're here for part 2 on our video about setting up 2 Pico aquariums, one freshwater and one salt. If you didn't see part 1, we'll be linking to it in the description below, and both of these videos will be placed on a playlist. If you don't feel like watching it, we'll do a quick recap. Basically, we started with 2 small tanks that were quite dirty. We cleaned them up, got them ready to use again, and then aquascaped them and filled them with water. Now, it's been about 10 days, and we're ready to start introducing some life to them. This one here is the saltwater tank. I'm really excited for it. We're going to get both corals and fish going in it today. And this will be the freshwater one. It too is ready for livestock today. We'll be putting the betta in it that we picked out last video, as well as a couple of aquatic plants. So, let's not waste any more time and get to it. Now that the tank has sat for a while, and we've tested it to make sure that there's no ammonia or nitrites present, it's time to begin adding the corals. The way that we're doing that today starts with removing the top rock from the aquascape so that we can easily access the bottom. We've selected 3 different types of zoanthids to go down there. The first are an endomericulture piece that I've been told looks like VDMs, or Valentine's Day massacres, but I don't know the lineage. I just think they look really nice. The next one I picked out are the Bowser lookalike zoanthids from the eye-catching coral order that we unboxed a few days ago. You can see all about that order on our channel. And finally, we've selected a single polyp of utter chaos that actually came from a customer of ours. These are a really popular zoanthid, and as soon as they settle in, you'll see why. First things first though, we need to dip our corals. And to do that, we're going to be using Seachem Reef Dip, just because that's what I happen to have around, but there's lots of great products for this. It calls for 1 gallon of water and 1 cap of dip, so that's exactly what we're going to do. Now the reason we're dipping these corals is because we don't want to bring any pests over into our new tank. I don't think there's any there, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Just add the dip, give it a stir, and move the corals over. We're going to be dipping our corals for about 5 to 10 minutes today. One common mistake I see is people thinking that dipping is a passive process. You really want to move these frags around and get into any crevices, otherwise the pests can hide out and simply wait out the dip. After that though, it's time to finish preparing these frags to glue into the tank. So I have some bone cutters, some clean water, and of course the frags. This first one from eye-catching corals comes on a nice flat frag plug. It has a really good surface on the back for glue, so that one's ready to go right off the bat. After that is the utter chaos. It's on a common frag plug, and I want it to look like the last one, so I'm going to take the bone cutters and clip that right off. It's now ready to go into the tank too. These VDM lookalikes though are a different story. They're on an endomericulture plug that's about 3 inches across, but it's glued down to some bird's nest coral that I think I can break off with the bone cutters. This will be a much more manageable piece for our aquarium. Once we did that, however, it revealed a little bit of bubble algae that was hiding out underneath everything, so we were careful to pull all of that off and give it a good shake. We don't want to bring any of that over to the new tank. Now, all 3 corals are ready to be glued down. We brought the frags over to the tank, and now we're going to glue them down. For that, we'll be using some Seachem Reef Glue, just because this is what I carry in the store, but any cyanoacrylate super glue will do. That's right, super glue. If you're a reefer, you know exactly what I mean, and that doesn't sound weird to you at all. But if you're not, you might be wondering if that's alright for the tank. Well, it is. Once it dries, it's essentially just acrylic, which is what a lot of tanks are made out of, and it even starts curing as soon as it hits the water. So really, it's the best tool that there is for the job. The first zoanthid we're placing are those Bowser lookalikes. Bowsers are a really sought-after high-end zoanthid at the moment, so I'm placing them front and center, because they'll surely be popular here in the store. Next, we'll place the utter chaos. We'll put them on the other side of the tank, and further back on the rock. We want to make sure to leave room in front of them for the VDMs, but not to place them too far back, because we have that other rock to put on the aquascape as soon as we're finished. Finally, we'll place the VDM lookalikes. I have a special spot in mind for these. It's a little hard to see from this angle, but there's a perfect ledge at the front of the aquascape, and it should glue down and look like a perfect extension of the rock that already exists. There. That's just about perfect. I think you'll see what I did here in a second. First though, it's time to wipe down any water that we spilled. Now, let's take a look at this tank from above. As you can see, the VDMs do indeed come right off the existing aquascape. This is just what I wanted. Moving back to the other rock that we removed, it's time to talk about the corals that are going on there. First is this bleeding heart favia from Happy Fish KC. Honestly, they made this whole video possible. They're the one that sent us the premium betas last week, and one of those is what will be going into the freshwater tank. And this guy, well, Shane told me to hold on to it and grow it out, so this'll do. The next coral will be this little Phovites. It's not named or anything like that. I just really like the colors and think that it'll go nicely with everything else in this tank. Rounding out our coral selection will be this unnamed bounce mushroom. Nobody knows too much about bounce mushrooms and why they do what they do, but those little enlarged vesicles can get absolutely massive, so hopefully that's exactly what's going to happen in our tank. And so, after dipping these corals as well, it's time to start gluing them down onto the rock. We'll put the Phovites up in the upper left-hand corner, way out of the way. These guys love to push out sweeper tentacles and swing other corals, so we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. Next, the bounce mushroom will go right up front. Again, bounce mushrooms are great and super popular, so we want to make sure that everybody that walks past this tank sees it. And finally, for the Happy Fish KC bleeding heart favia, we'll put it opposite of the Phovites and even angle it slightly the other way, just so they don't have any incentive to fight with each other. That will just about do it. It's now time to move this rock back to our Pico tank and complete our aquascape. Maybe you haven't noticed before now, but the tank's not all the way full, and this is so that I don't displace too much water when placing the rock. Not a bad look, huh? It's actually pretty close to what I was aiming for. So, now that we've finished placing the corals and reconstructed our aquascape, it's time to give these just a little bit of time to settle, and that's the perfect time to start working on the freshwater tank. Now that we're back here at the freshwater tank, it's time to get started thinking about what our first steps should be. I think that it should be plants. We want to get this thing ready for the beta so that he's at home as soon as he gets in there. So we're going to do one floating plant, one plant that goes at the bottom of our aquarium, and we're even going to add a terrestrial plant. One advantage of growing terrestrial plants out of your filter is that they are amazing at sucking up nitrates. I've seen systems that can get away with going months at a time without water changes simply because there's a pothos or something growing out of their filter that's sucking up all the end waste product from their fish. So we're going to aim for that here too. So plants, which to choose? Well, for a floating plant, these water spangles will do nicely. They grow almost as fast as duckweed, but they're nowhere near as big of a nuisance, and the beta will love it. And for the bottom of the tank, we'll go with some subwasser tang. This guy is actually, as I understand it, the gamete of a fern of some sort that never actually settles out into a fern, but it grows a lot like a moss in an aquarium, and it doesn't need that much light, so it should do really, really well in this scenario. For our terrestrial plant to go in the filter, we'll replace the golden pothos with this neon pothos, because I really like the look. There's a few things you need to do to get it ready to go in though. First is to knock off as much of the loose dirt as you can, being really careful not to damage the roots. Once you've got most of it, you can even rinse the rest off with water, but either way, you pretty much want a bare root before we move it into the filter. Now it's time to move our plants into the tank. The subwasser tang is super easy. I'm just going to push it right into the bottom and trying to get it into every little crevice of this dragonstone so that maybe it'll creep along the top as it grows. After that, it's time to add our water spangles. Here you can see why I don't think that they're such a nuisance. They're not really clogging up our filter or anything like that. They're really just a solid floating plant. Now we grab our neon pothos and put it into the back chamber of the tank. One in each filter section should do. If you missed our last video, the fish that we're using for this tank is this yellow and black beta, imported from Indonesia. Again, my buddy Shane at Happy Fish KC hooked us up with this guy. He fits perfectly because here in Colombia, home of the Mizzou Tigers, black and yellow is the school colors. So he'll need a name too, probably something related to the school. Now it's time to net him out and put him into the tank. Looks pretty happy right off the bat to me. And that's about it for the freshwater tank. This will be super easy to take care of, and it should go over really well here in the store. One last thing though, we're going to add a cap full of stability. This is a bottled bacteria product. just to make sure that this tank is cycled. For the saltwater tank, we'll be using this white-cap goby. It's by far the rarest of all the prong gobies, and we are super lucky to have him here in the store. There's honestly nothing cooler that you could put into a small tank like this. He's paired with the tiger pistol shrimp, but we're not sure where he's at today, so we'll make sure to catch him out later and get him moved over too. We don't want them split up for too long. And in he goes. You might notice he darted right to the back of the tank. These guys are really good hiders, so it might be a while before we figure out where he's established himself. And this is the rock that he usually hangs out in. We're moving it over just in case his pistol shrimp is in there. Now, it's time to simply let things be for a couple hours, come back, and see how our tanks look. Coming back to our saltwater tank, it's immediately obvious that things are going well. These corals are opening up and loving life. The VDMs look exactly like I wanted them to. They're one of the brighter corals that I know of, and being right front and center like that just popped. Absolutely in your face, and I love it. The bounce mushroom also looks awesome. It's getting significantly more light here than in the tank that I kept it in before, and I've heard that that's the ticket for getting the vesicles to grow. So, fingers crossed. And the bleeding heart favia from Happy Fish KC kinda speaks for itself. Now, I haven't seen the goby since this tank was set up earlier, but I did catch a glimpse of the pistol shrimp, so he's in there somewhere. Honestly though, that just means that we'll have to do a part 3 of this video about how everything grows in, and so you guys can get a view of the goby in his new home. And on the freshwater side of things, everything appears as it should too. This beta is acting completely comfortable and should be a really good mascot for our store. Now that both of these tanks are finished and back up and running, maybe if you find yourself in the area, stop by and check it out. We'd love to see you here. I really want to thank you guys for watching this video today. Whether it inspired you to make your own saltwater or freshwater Pico tank, or you just thought it was an interesting thing to watch, we hope that you enjoyed it. The biggest way that you can help this channel right now would be either to subscribe on YouTube or tell a friend about us. So until next time, this is Anthony at the Basement Reef, and thanks again for watching.